Wake up, Roger. It's almost 4 in the afternoon. Aren't you supposed to be watching some football? We played last night. Oh. Aren't you going to watch the rest of the games today? Nah, I don't think so. Roger, we had an agreement. I had chosen. Yeah, I know. I just don't feel like doing it. Who are you anyway? Well, let's just say I'm the spirit of competition, for lack of a more appropriate phrase. Yes, that is my existence, to make sure cooperation and competition flow together. That's my task, as it were. There were eons where they would consider that something rather magnificent. It's just a job, as it were. So now you see, Roger, that the rivalry weekend exemplifies the spirit of competition. The joyous end to a magnificent season, finished off by a challenging battle of in-state rivals. No. You got it all wrong. The season is just starting. Rivalry week has become meaningless. Well, really it is. Georgia didn't have to beat Georgia Tech. They still could have played in the SEC championship game, and their season will be affected by what happens past that game. Ohio State didn't have to beat Michigan. They're still getting in the playoffs. How is that the spirit of competition? Well, I didn't say you had the perfect arrangement. But the regular season should exemplify competition. As much as it has not this year, the spirit of competition is best exemplified, in my opinion. I do have some weight in that opinion, being the spirit of competition, Roger. It's my opinion that college football best exemplifies that spirit, even with all the distractions of late. Well, you can't be talking about the spirit of competition when so far no team that I can point to has really been punished for losing. The only team that's been punished for any losses so far is South Carolina. That team went 8-3 and probably should be 10 or 11-1. They got robbed at LSU with a blatantly bad officiating. That's not competition. A very similar outcome against Alabama. But Alabama's going to end up in the playoffs, most likely. Georgia lost 2 games. They're supposed to be invincible, but they're still right where they were last year, exactly. And last year they were undefeated at this time. Well, I suppose the spirit of competition, it must be upheld despite the fact that there are forces that don't really like competition. However, the college game is the one last remnant. You see it in the players' celebrations after a heartfelt win or loss. There's no other sport where they gather and exhibit this emotion. There's no other sport that exhibits the spirit of competition better than college football. And I say it's still a worthy enterprise. Well, if the spirit of competition believes that college football is still a worthy enterprise, I guess we'll have to dig in and finish out the year, but they're trying to destroy the game. Money's taken over. It's become a game of money and privilege and politics. And the officiating, don't even get me started about that. Well, Roger, it's been my experience that in genuine competition, the guys with the whistles and the men in stripes may do what they may, but I've seen that they have been flogged at their intent in many occasions. Well, you've done videos yourself displaying how your team fought off the officials and everything else and won a title. You can't just stop because it's not quite as much fun as it was in the past, Roger. You have been chosen to represent the spirit of competition. I am just an illusion. I don't have flesh and bone. I can only speak to you, Roger. And if you don't speak to the people, who will? Because I have chosen you to represent the spirit of competition. Because you know it well. You will even let your 3-year-old win in basketball. You're the most competitive person we've ever seen. And so it is your task to represent what I've shown you, Roger. Now go out there and make them another video and get them ready for the most exciting stage yet to come. The 12-team playoff. What could be more competitive than that? Well, I suppose you're right, but here we got another week. We got to watch the conference championship games, and now the committee said those results won't even factor into the invitations. So it's another week of pointless games. Georgia's got to play Texas, a team they already beat. So winning a huge matchup hasn't settled anything. None of these conference championship games are going to keep anybody out of the playoffs, so we got to wait another week. And when we finally get the field, then we can start this football season, and that is my complaint. But the 12-team playoff is going to have its first shot. We'll see how it turns out. So far, it's looking like they haven't really kept out a really good team yet. The biggest battle is going to be who's going to get that spot that's been opened up with the recent losses this past weekend. Some teams fell out. Miami fell out. Teams that we all knew were illusions fell out. Miami probably fell out. We have to say probably. They still could get in. SMU is still alive, but that spot that Alabama threw away 3 times is still back in their lap. And then once Alabama gets in, that's the team that is anti-competition, the team that has received so many favors over the decades that it tilts the playing field dramatically. I was certainly hoping they wouldn't be in, just to keep the games clean and pure. But if Alabama gets in, basically the preseason favorites, the top 4, which happen to be the top 4 money teams and the teams with the top 4 largest fan bases, roughly, wonder why that's a coincidence, are in the playoffs, no matter what kind of year they had. And so that's what we've been looking forward to all year, is the 12-team playoff. And I believe that the jury is out, that it has made tremendous destruction to the regular season. It may not have destroyed it, but it will eventually. And they got a template to see how that happened in college basketball. They're trying to make this just like the March Madness for some bizarre reason. Some bizarre reason. And in college basketball, it doesn't even matter who wins conferences. The best team out there avoids playing in those conference tournaments. They'll lose and duck out to save themselves some wear and tear. And you can't let the conferences become meaningless, because that's the linchpin to college football, because it's an emotional sport. We're all emotionally invested in these teams more than any other sport. No, more than any other sport. And that emotional investment starts with the teams, but the conferences keep this tribal connection of conferences is essential to what we love and cherish about college football.